over the assembly. Let's start taking it apart. Alright, now when it's apart, we'll look for one that's marked 14 karat or sterling, depending on what it's made out of. So here's the one that's marked 14 karat. Also is marked green over a little bit to the left. So we'll start with this one. Let's notice what's hanging from this one. We got 4 hanging down from this in the middle, and then 1 at the bottom. Now let's back off a little. Okay, so let's deal with the 4 in the middle. The 4 in the middle pair up and point away from each other. So we've got 2 pointing left, 2 pointing right. There's a lot of orders these could be in. If I bring one down up on the other side, it now points in, which isn't correct. So again, drop the one that's pointing in, bring down to the bottom, up on the other side, and we get pairs pointing away from the center. Notice the inner tip is tighter and smaller than the outer one. They could slide through each other. It's not too likely, but you have to check. Well, let's start over. Okay. So here's the 6-band ring. There are many 6-band styles. We'll start with this one. This one's not as tight as some. We'll go over some changes for the ones that are woven very tight. Let's start with it apart. There's one that's marked 14 karat. So let's locate that one. Marked 14 karat here. It says green also, if I can get the angle where you can see that. Yeah. So the markings are, so you can read them. Hanging down from that, there are 2 pairs. We want to get them so that the pairs point away from each other. So we got 1 pair left, 1 pair right. Notice the smaller tips inside the bigger tip. If they pass through each other and they're not in that order, you might have to slide them back. They usually don't get out of order though. In any case, the pairs pointing away from each other. So you keep them in that order. Bring the 14 karat one up to the top again. So we've now arranged it nice and neat. 14 karat at the top. The pairs in the middle. There's 1 at the bottom. Turn the bottom one around so the flat part is toward the ground. The top design is up. Now we're going to bring it toward the camera or toward yourself and up, sort of like it's being pushed from behind, like you put your hand behind, start bringing it toward you, continue that motion toward you and up, and then it gets in front of the one marked 14 karat, and the top design is toward the ground. Now it's going to spin around, looking down on it from above. It spins around clockwise. Looking at it from the side, it's the right side comes across the front over the left side. So I'm going to grab the right side, bring it across the front. The left side goes from left to right behind, and again clockwise looking down on it. So it turns around and sits against the one marked 14 karat and covers up so it doesn't say 14 karat anymore. So I'll do that again. Bottom one toward the camera and up. Grab the right side, bring it across the front over the left side, turning it around. Now, the tips are in the center for some of them aren't. We do need to slide them around until they're all in the center. These 2 are in the center as a nice neat pair. Now I get the other tip. Well, it's kind of separated. First I'll get the 2 back to make a nice neat pair here. And then I'll slide the pair up into the center. So now we've got all 4 in the middle. So let me focus a little closer. Right. And we'll focus on these tips. We'll start to fold them up. 2 come up on this side, 2 go up on the other side. The question is which order they go in. The correct order is the upper one on the closest side, that's this one. Upper one on the closest side, the tip goes over the other 3 tips in the middle. That's up here, in the middle of the ring. This tip goes over the other 3 and the flat part comes up. Now we'll turn the ring around This one got out. We'll slide that back in. So we have 3 tips in there now ready to be dealt with. The upper one here, tip goes over the remaining 2. Let me show you. Yeah, that one's done. Back to the first side. Back on the first side, the tip here goes over the closer one. Goes over the other one. You see it's under. So this is an example of help you understand what I mean by over and under. In each case previously, this one went over, which is correct. Under like that wouldn't work. So up and over that one's done. The other one on the other side. So let me go over those sides again. Well, from the beginning, bottom one up, turn around clockwise, tips into the center, get them all paired up, nice and neat in the middle. Okay. The first tip over 3, this would be under. See how it's underneath now? That's not going to work. It has to be up and over all those. In this case, I'm going to go from the other side. This one's going over 2. Now we're back on the first side. This one goes over the last one. Last one has nothing to go over. And it's all back together. So now let's switch to one that's tighter. This one's tighter on the top. And I'll go over a little hint that makes it a little easier to get these together. This one is marked sterling instead of 14 karat as it's made of sterling. Still says green there. The sides are paired up, pointed away from each other. Again, bottom one up, like you're closing a book. Spin it around clockwise, looking down on it. Put the tips in the center. But in this case, it is a little tighter in there, and it may not be as easy to get these up and over. So what I do is, there's lots of room when you haven't brought any up yet. This one doesn't want to go over all of them. So you can see I have to maneuver it up and over like that. Okay, now it's tight, so instead of going back and forth, something that'll help when there isn't a lot of room in there is take this one as alone on the closer side, and there's a pair on the other side, 2 of them. So I'm going to get this one that's alone in between the other 2. Whoops, that's up and over both. No, we don't want up and over both. So let's try to separate it. Okay, I want this one in between, which is there. See how it's going under the upper one, but over the lower one, right in between those 2. And then fold the 3 up together. Now, what helps to get this in between those 2 often is having something to push against. So let's get back to that stage here again. So put your finger in there so you have something to push against. Then when you go and push this that direction, they won't just push away from you. So I've got my finger here in the middle, push in between the 2, and the finger backing those 2 will pull these up to get them in the right position. Although you can also do it, with a pinky or another finger up there. But I find the one that works the best is to put your finger in the center, give you something to push against, and can you see I've got that in between the 2 of them, and fold the 3 up together. So try that if you're having trouble going back and forth, side to side. On the one that was woven a little looser, it's easy to go back and forth, side to side. But on some of them that are woven tighter, it's easier to do the last 3 and bring them up together, because if you do one at a time, for the last few, there's very little room to maneuver. But they really go together the same way. Good luck. Bye-bye.